made the ARP Pro Soloist sound so distinctive and so unique? I'm talking about those wobbly, buzzy, nasal, animated sounds that seem impossible to recreate on standard analog synthesizer modules, even as we come up to its 50th birthday. And not even the exact sounds, I'm talking about a family of sounds, of other presets that Pro Soloist could have had, but didn't happen to. Is it the VCF? That's the thing that seems to distinguish most synths. Nope, it has a bog standard Moog style ladder filter. Is it the VCA? Nope, that's a standard OTA VCA, CA3080. Is it the envelope generators? No, they're just common ADSR and AR types. So these sections are not significantly different from old ARPs with the 4012, 4034, 4035 filters, but Pro Soloist sounds nothing like an old Odyssey or even a 1006 filter amp, let alone all the other synths with essentially the same configuration. Is it the slow LFO vibrato or the aftertouch? The aftertouch control combination of vibrato and volume enhancement? Nope. While it's a notable feature of some of the presets, there are plenty of other synths that allow the same thing but which don't sound like it at all. Think of the Yamaha CS family 50, 60, 80. Is it that the sound is produced from a high-frequency VCO and divided down? Nope. Roland's SH3A provides a mixable divide-down waves and also has a ladder filter, 3080 VCA, ADSR and some other envelopes, and a delayed LFO. Very similar configuration, but it sounds nothing like a Pro Soloist. Similarly, the ARP Little Brother has a high-speed divide-down circuit, but if you feed it through a Moog filter or an Odyssey or whatever, you still can't get that sound. Is it the resonators? Nope. Plenty of synths have resonators or EQ. The Roland SH2000 has presets also with divide-down wave shaping, simple resonances, a Moog ladder, touch-sensitive, but again, it sounds nothing like the Pro Soloist. So I went looking into what could it be, and I came up with two things. First, the Pro Soloist presets switch between different patches. Some patches, like the Fruit preset, are super generic sort of VCF to VCA and don't have that sound that I was looking for. But the sounds I was looking for that attracted me all use a particular patch. Second, it turns out the wave shaper was not a simple divide-down mixing wave shaper, but one based on combining the divide-down signals through logic circuits. Let's cut to the chase. Here's a little demo of a version of that patch with the wave shaper module I came up with to recreate that sound, ProPulse. Actually, it uses a completely different approach, not logic chips, but with the same result. And, important for me, it also allows more wave shapes on the same principle as the original wave shaper. I'm not trying to recreate any exact preset of the Pro Soloist. You can buy one or build a replica if that's what you want. Instead, I'm trying to capture the unique wobbly, buzzy, nasal, animated quality. And the wobbliness is the least interesting, just a delayed LFO. I played this sample through a Wind controller to get more like the Aftertouch keyboard too. Here goes. So what was this characteristic patch? First, there's a really conventional single oscillator monosynth signal path. A saw wave feeds a low-pass filter, then a VCA audio input, and that out to your mixing desk. In parallel, there's this logic-based pulse-generating wave shaper, and this feeds 3 resonators, and then they all also go into the VCA's audio input. On the Pro Soloist, selecting different presets can change the effective patch to a more boring one, such as disabling the pulse resonators, but most of the presets change the details of the special pulses and the frequencies and the levels of the resonators. If you want to make this patch and you don't have a resonator module, you can probably use a parametric EQ module instead. In the demo, I use a Fricko Vox-H resonator module. So what about these special pulses? One of the difficulties in figuring out the Pro Soloist is that the circuit diagrams have very cryptic and kind of misleading markings for the lines selecting the pulse waves. 1 on 9, 1 on 11, 1 on 14. What do they mean? I put the circuit into a logic simulator and plotted the various results. There was a definite pattern. For most of the presets, the wave shaper generated a single pulse of 25% or less, but delayed in its start by almost the same amount as its width. So you might get an 8% leading gap and then a 9% pulse. And this kind of wave can actually be implemented quite easily in an analog circuit, without having to have a high-speed VCO, dividers and logic circuits. All you need is a window comparator, where The comparator off voltage varies to a control voltage by twice that of the comparator on voltage. In other words, instead of just a pulse width modulator, it is both a pulse and initial onset, the phase modulator. Now in isolation, running a saw through the ProPulse just gives you a vanilla pulse, boring. But the circuit is designed to be used in the kind of parallel patch I mentioned to cause interference with some static phase wave shape. And that's what the ProPulse wave shaping module can be used for. So what's the total effect of this? The pulse wave shaper generated pulse that are not phase aligned with the saw wave. So mixing them together causes some harmonics to be cancelled as well as others to be boosted in unusual ways. The VCF also causes phase changes around its cutoff frequency. That's what VCFs do, creating dynamic interference, not just simple low pass with resonance. Resonators can cause different harmonics to be emphasized when different notes are played, and the phase around these differ too, complicating the dynamic effect further. So what you have is phase interference of harmonics near the resonant points and cutoff frequency. You get subtle variations of harmonics depending on the note and the envelope and the touch. There's a different effect to chorusing, pulse width modulation, or low-pass filtering. That is what I think the unique Pro Soloist sound is. So, now we know all that, let's hear that demo one more time. The demo was made with a MIDI wind controller and delayed LFO providing vibrato. The output was processed with mild compression, reverb and a delayed doubling. Inside the patch that I used was this. The VCO saw goes to the ProPulse module. It has two outputs. The first just duplicates the input saw and goes to a ladder filter, static high pass, and the VCA. The other output of the ProPulse with the pulse goes to a Vox H resonator and then to the VCA or another VCA with the same envelope, and both VCAs are then put into a mixer to allow me to correct the mix to get the balance that I want. Thanks for listening. I hope you found this stimulating.